And we have with us today's wonderful panel of speakers. We hope you guys prepared some amazing questions for them.
Okay, so starting from our far left, we have Shree, who is a senior business system analyst at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan and works in information technology. She has a master's in computer science and started her career as a developer and moved to business system analyst later on. Then we have Natalie too. She is a home infusion dietitian for Henry Ford Home Infusion as a nutrition support and works in nutrition support dietitian. She graduated from the University of Illinois Chicago with her bachelor degree in nutrition and medical diabetes in 1998. After working in research and an inpatient dietitian, she found nutrition support to be her niche. She maintained credentials for over 30 years as a registered dietitian and as a certified nutrition support clinician. In her home infusions position, she routinely assesses and manages patients who are unable to survive without intravenous or tube feeding. She does this as part of the patient's interdisciplinary team consisting of physicians, pharmacists, nurses, social workers, and case managers. Next up, we have Angana Shah.
Hi. Okay, so Angana is a legal specialist and lobbyist. She is a self-employed and she works with social justice. She started out as a lawyer and practiced corporate law for 4 years in DC, and then did 1 year of volunteer law for a law program overseas, and then for 10 more years she worked on legal reform in developing countries. After she had her son, she moved back to Michigan to be closer to family, and she's been working with NGOs on social justice issues, lobbying lawmakers for change. And Meghana, she is a senior AI and machine learning application developer. She works at Stellantis, which is automotive tech AI. She graduated from Troy High in 2019 and was super involved on the team and was president her senior year. And she went to Carnegie Mellon and studied electrical and computer engineering. And while she was there, she interned at Stellantis, HP, and DoorDash. Once she graduated, she's been working at Stellantis on AI and ML features for car cockpits.
Would you like to go ahead and give a couple words yourselves?
So obviously I'm not in a STEM field, but welcome questions, and I will answer whatever the moderators have best I can. But I did start off in the engineering school. This is not to discourage you. I now wish I'd finished in it. So though I'm happy with what I did, I think having solid knowledge and skills is worth it. And right now, those are like quantitative and science. They probably have been told all this, right? Okay.
Alright, like they mentioned, I'm Meghana. Not too long ago, I was in your shoes, and now I'm here. So if you guys want to know about my journey or how I got here, I'd be happy to answer.
Hi, I'm Natalie. You heard a little bit about my job. I look forward to explaining it a little bit more because I work with patients who don't eat very much and they can't survive without intravenous or tube feedings, and so they're quite sick, but that's what I found to be very interesting, and the more complicated the patient, the more exciting it is, for me to do.
Hello everyone, my name is Shayuri. I'm Karthik's mom. I'm very excited to be here and answer any questions that you guys have. I think I'll hand over the mic there.
So we're going to start off with some discussions we've had prepared for you guys, and then later on we'll give it to our guests to give you guys anything that we didn't cover that they'd like us to cover. So I guess the biggest question is, what inspired you guys to go into the career that you guys are currently in?
I think I kind of always knew I wanted to be a lawyer, and then because I was good at math and science, I started off in engineering thinking I'd be a patent lawyer, but it's not really what I wanted. I wanted to do things that change, well, they say save the world, but at least have an effect on society and such. So instead of becoming an engineer. I changed my major to the humanities and went to law school, and you heard the rest of it. That's what I
Yeah, so I started in robotics actually. That's kind of what inspired me to go into the tech world and go into electrical and computer engineering. And even before robotics, I was super interested in math and did different math competitions that kind of translated to STEM and technology, but it was really FIRST and just the community. I knew a lot of people from FIRST who worked at Stellantis back then and other automotive companies, and just seeing everything that they do and all that really inspired me to get to where I am now.
So I ended up in the dietetic school at University of Illinois after starting as a engineering major and then switching out really quickly. I mean, I went in and I love math, but trust me, I do a lot of math every day in my job. Not engineering math, but math. But nonetheless, I went to the counselor and I said, or the advisor, and they said, well, you really scored high on the health sciences. You should, would you consider a nursing career? And he rattled off some other things, and I knew I wanted to help people. I had no idea what a dietitian did, which is hilarious, but I was very interested in how food nourishes us and, enjoy the food science end of it. So I just took a leap of faith, and it worked out well. And then, honestly, there's so many things you can do as a dietitian. So, I ended up where I did, just on the journey, figuring out after working in a hospital and with a team of pharmacists, doctors, nurses, all together. And I really like that team approach to get the best care for the patient.
So the question was why I chose this career?
Yes.
Okay. It's an interesting one. Although I don't look that old, I hope. But the first time I saw a computer was when I was in like 9th standard or 10th standard, I guess. Like there was like a big, like huge, I don't know if you guys even saw that, like a huge monitor and everything. There was only one computer in my school back then, and then it was like if you did really well, then they will take you into that computer room and show you that monitor. That's how it started, like back then, and I'm from India, that's how it started. So it was, computer science was like not famous, nobody knew, and things like that. It was just getting started. So at that time I wanted to become a doctor, that was my aim. So I was preparing for that, like when I was in my undergrad, 11th, 12th, things like that. So in undergrad there was like a newspaper thing that came up, like, there is an entrance exam if you want to learn programming languages like Python or C or things like that. You need to write an entrance exam, and if you get it, you'll be covered. You don't need to pay anything. So I'm like, okay, let me just go and try. And that's how I gave it, and I got selected. It was like tuition free. I'm like, why not? Why don't I learn it? But my major was like, in my undergrad and my master's, I did like genetics and chemistry. That was my major, but parallelly I was doing computer science. So when I came to US, like, I had a choice to either pursue that or this, but I chose computer science at that time because it was very fascinating, interesting to do all the different things that you can do at that time. So I did a master's in computer science, and that's how I ended up here. Thank you.
Okay, now I have a question for you guys. Who are your role models or mentors, and how did they impact your career?
So, I'm a lot older than you guys, as you may imagine. So in my time, there were less women in most every field, and certainly not like Indian women that I would see. I gotta say, for lawyers, my role models came from TV, and LA Law was on at that time, and I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer. Later on in my career, when I had kind bosses, and it's rare. Like you want to stick with that one. I remember every single one that was kind, took an interest in my career, and I'm still in touch with a lot of them. So they came as I went along, but I didn't have a role model on my path. So.
I feel like throughout my career, pretty short, but even in high school, my role models have changed. In the beginning, when I was in your shoes, it was older students, maybe like 2 or 3 years older who had already graduated, or people on the team that I interacted with when I was a freshman or sophomore, and also the amazing mentors from the team. They were really, really big role models throughout my early years. And now it's like people, after I got into corporate, it's like people who are in leadership positions and other females who I aspire to be when I grow up. When I grow up. I guess I'm not grown yet.
It's okay. Role models. I think in career-wise, probably my first role model was one of our professors. She, as we launched into clinical care in the hospital and clinic settings, that was very significant for me because you start gaining confidence, and learning that you can make a difference with patients. But then as I went from job to job, my first job being in research, and worked with a PhD dietitian there, she also served as a role model, and I ended up doing another little research project with her, collaboratively with other dietitians from the whole Chicago area. So, she was definitely a role model. And then as I went to another position and another position, I learned so much from the pharmacists and physicians that I worked with on this nutrition support team at Loyola Hospital in the Chicago area. So, they served as role models. And then, another dietitian who was also, again, in research with my next job. So each job I did take away, I had some great, learning experiences with each one of these. They touched me and offered me a lot of educational opportunity, to grow. So very many when I think about it.
Role model per se, like growing up and until I came here, was pretty much my parents actually, like my dad and my mom. My mom is not educated, but like she was motivating me, encouraging me to do the best in everything that I go to, and my dad was like very outgoing personality, so I used to see them as my role models. But once I started working here, like they were saying, like the different mentors who touched me, like different leadership or peers, co-workers, everybody, I try to take the best in each person so I can learn in every opportunity that I interact with somebody wherever I work. So I'm very privileged to have wonderful peers, wonderful mentors and leadership, so which help me grow to where I am right now.
What's a favorite part of the job that keeps you guys motivated?
Let's reverse them. Just to make it more interesting.
So the favorite part of the job, so my job right now is I work as a system analyst / business analyst. So we come in, basically the role is we come in at the beginning of any project. So anything we are implementing, we are coming in the beginning. So the curiosity of what we are solving, why we are solving, how is it going to bring value add to the company, to the business, so that why, what, how. So that curiosity keeps me going, keeps it interesting. So every day is a learning opportunity. So when I go in, what am I going to learn today? What am I going to figure out today? Once you go in and then you kind of figure out things oh, this is how the things are tying in. So that keeps me going and makes it interesting.
So I can think of two situations that I love as part of my job. I think this answers the question, but so, for example, every week our patients on intravenous nutrition, it's called TPN. We get lab values, results on them, and when they're all abnormal, you start trying to figure out how to fix it, or what's going on with the patient. So I'll start reassessing what could be wrong, reach out to the patient, get information, and then collaborate with the rest of the team. The nurse going into the home, the pharmacist sitting down the hall, and then reaching out to the doctor. So the whole process, something that I think might be the case and what we could do to improve this patient's nutrition status, hydration status, lab values, keep them out of the hospital, that being the goal, that evolves within the next hour or two of that day. And then, we come up with a solution and we keep them home and alive. And so that's very rewarding because if they don't infuse this nutrition, they don't survive. They don't survive. And then the other situation is I get calls every day, patients that are getting fed by tube that goes directly into their stomach. They may or may not be able to eat, but they're having problems tolerating this feeding, or maybe their caregiver is. So we can usually come up with a solution, and so that's rewarding when we can. Sometimes we can't solve everything, but if we can at least make it better so that the patient can gain weight, tolerate the feeding better, whatever the goal is. So that's very rewarding.
Yeah, your job is definitely way more impactful and rewarding than what we do, but basically what I do is I develop artificial intelligence and ML features in the car. So it's super new, and the industry right now is really transforming with technology. It's coming into every little part of the car, and you'd be surprised just how much data gets pulled from the car and used in all of these features. So what I do, what I like, and what's really interesting is I get to see all of the different ways that cars are changing and also be a part of that change. So like in the beginning, when I first started, our organization was super new, so I got to really kind of flesh out how these products are going to work and how these features are going to work. And now we're actually working on these features for the car and making it a reality, and hopefully next year they're going to be in the vehicles and users are going to be able to try these features and see. So I think that's most interesting, just seeing the transformation and just seeing like a product / feature like from start to end.
Okay, so I told you that my job right now is as a social justice lobbyist. I went into the law pretty much to make a difference and make change, and so you really don't succeed that often. It's just a fact, right? You're trying to get things to change. So when I do succeed, it's so rewarding. I'll give you just a couple examples and try to keep them short. When I was in Bulgaria, the court system kind of really just didn't work for people. It was too slow. And sometimes the disputes were kind of personal, so we wanted to institute a mediation program. But they had tried just the year before I came, and my boss in Washington said, no, we don't want to fail again. I mean, you can't make change if you don't fail a million times, but that's just more empirical. And so she didn't want to fund it, so what I did is, we had another project, and at each place that we stopped in the country, I gathered the judges, all the stakeholders, judges, lawyers, and mediators that actually our project had trained. I went around, collected the consent, and convinced her to put on a conference to try it. And she was kind of brushing it off, like, oh, we promised it to him. But at the conference, she was hearing everything I told her back, and to this day, Bulgaria still now has mediation in each of its courts. So it's just, like, that's just a big change, and it made a difference. I guess on a more empirical scale, what I was doing was economic development, international development, and a lot of the countries I went to have since I started in my career, it wasn't me who did it, their economies have grown, they have been able to start their own businesses. Okay, that's just more at home, at social justice lobbying. There was in 2020, I believe, they were going to pass a law that would make employers just not liable for any COVID, getting COVID or being injured. And it's easy to forget how scary it was, but that would mean they could just not have precautions, they could make you come in, they wouldn't have to have people masked or the cleaning. And it had failed, bipartisan, it had failed. Then, what they did is they did what they call a tie bar to unemployment continuing. So of course we wanted people to keep getting unemployment, it was the thick of COVID. And I heard about it, we decided we had to try to fight it, we were sure we wouldn't win. Again, it doesn't happen that much. So that was Thursday, they were voting Tuesday. Friday, we wrote a script. Monday, we had a team calling, we landed 800 calls in these legislators' offices. And Tuesday at midnight, a legislator texted me and said, we won, and we really didn't think we could. I see how that seems really abstract to you guys. I don't have something that I can think of that would really maybe resonate. But if I do, I'll throw it into another answer, okay? Basically, when I succeed, it's very rewarding, but it's like 30% of the time. The big change, not in my small tasks. So that's super rewarding, and I'm okay with it. A lot of people kind of need to succeed every time.
Okay, so if you guys could go back in time, what's one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
The younger self? Things will work out. We don't need to take too much stress. At that moment, it looks like it's too much. Can I do it? Can I not do it? Like a lot of confusions. Clarity will not be there. It's like stress will be there, nervousness, everything will be there. But I keep telling, like, don't worry. If you work hard and you give your 100%, and like she said, like not every time you will see failures, but like you will learn a lesson. Don't see it as a failure. It's like a lesson learned, and things will work out. And whatever you learn from that, it will help you somewhere else, right? So you don't need to worry too much is what I would say to my younger self, basically.
Can we come back to me?
Yeah, I guess kind of going off of that, I feel like all of you guys, like, I know high school sometimes is really hard, like there's multiple tests the next day, you have a ton of assignments, but looking back, I don't remember any of that. I only remember, exactly, I only remember the good moments and the wins and the positive things, so just know if you guys are having a really stressful day, just power through, you're not going to remember it, and cherish the little moments and the wins that you have in between.
Okay, first and foremost, financial planning. Because, again, I had no role models, and it's really fun to live in a big city. But always be thinking of the future, and I'm sure most of you can, look to parents or someone for guidance, buy a house as soon as you can. We don't know what the world will look like, but always keep it in mind. Second, people like to say, oh, you're never going to use that. If you go into STEM, yes, you are. So, learn it, and then your first year in college will be super easy. Oh, I
Sure.
What was one of the biggest challenges you guys have faced, and how did you guys overcome it?
Yeah, I can tell you that I don't know how it will apply to people here or kids here. Biggest challenges, like I said, so when I came to US back in 2000, so I did my master's in computer science, and then I got a job and I was working. So after I had my first child, I decided to be a stay-at-home mom so I can give that time to both my kids. So I had like a long career break. Almost, I would say, 8.5 to 9 years. So until Karthik went to first grade, like I was home, I was not working. My biggest challenge in my career was, you guys know how technology changes, right? Like, if you're not in touch, like today is like one language and in another 10 days it's like something else new, something else new. It keeps changing. So for me, that even though I did my master's here and I worked and everything, that 8.5, 9 years of break was too much. So when I wanted to go back, so one thing I would say, I told the employer when I went for my first interview after my break, I told the employer, yep, I did all these things, yeah, I have a break, but I have the confidence that I can pick it up and I can learn. So that's how I got that was my first interview after 9 years break and I got into the job. So that part, like I was saying, right, don't worry, things will work out. I was very stressed out, I don't know anything, I forgot everything. Will I be able to do it? Like, a lot of questions, but when I went to the interview, I was confident, I was honest, I told them, yep, I don't remember, but I will pick it up from where I left, so I am here back again, so yeah.
I think one of the biggest first challenges I had in my career was when we were moving from the Chicago area to Boston because of my husband's training program that would happen there, and I would have to pick up and find a new job. So I had to I took advantage of an opportunity for this PhD dietitian who was, that I heard speak at a conference, and my coworker urged me to reach out to her because she was working in Boston at this new therapeutic center. And so I did an interview, got set up, they flew me out and back the same day, and I ended up getting this job. It was about an hour's drive outside of Boston, but it didn't matter. It worked out just fine, and it was great. It was the most incredible experience. But that whole move, getting a new job, I had never picked up and moved to a different state. So that was a big deal for me, because I had lived at home while I was going to school. I didn't live, on campus, and but one most wonderful experience to do that and to be able to do it successfully.
Honestly, I feel like so far I haven't had any super big challenges, but one kind of longer challenge was just getting through college and figuring out what I wanted to do after. Like, Carnegie Mellon was really, really hard. Like, I thought Troy High was really intense, and I know when I was in your shoes, everyone who went to college would always tell me college is way harder. I never believed them. I'm like, oh, I'll be fine. Like it'll be okay. But really, college is definitely something else. But and I guess the challenge there is just trying to figure out what I wanted to do after. I feel like even in STEM or even in computer science or what I did, electrical and computer engineering, there's so many different fields you can go into, so many different industries, so many different roles, and I feel like until you kind of learn about those fields and know people from them, you don't really know what you want to do. And I feel like even when I was in your shoes, I had no idea. So just figuring out exactly what I wanted to do after, back then AI wasn't even a thing, or maybe it was, it just wasn't as known, and now that's what I'm doing. So just kind of figuring out what direction I wanted to go in was really challenging. And I guess how I overcame it, I kind of just let the opportunities come to me and just do the best that I could do with those opportunities. So CMU was really good for AI. There was really cool AI classes. I had an internship that I did that was data science, AI related. I really enjoyed it, so that kind of made me decide to go in that direction.
So I described some of the things I did. So obviously I changed career paths, swerved left twice. So the first time I was working in a law firm, and it's not like LA law, unfortunately. So I knew I couldn't stay there, and I did this 1-year program and came back and like, once I had hated my job that I did 12 hours a day, and then I went overseas and still worked hard and loved what I did. Like, it just didn't occur to me that I'd go back to doing something I hate, but I had to break into the field. I just met people, I did small contract work until I could get a more steady work and a job, and how I overcame that was just sheer persistence. I just kept at it. And then at some point, what are you gonna do? Not try? But then after I had my son, when you work in international development, you have to travel. I mean, your worth to your employer is how many times you get on a plane. So I absolutely did not want to do that. And then after my dad passed, they couldn't really babysit anyway. So I came back here, and I had originally meant to do economic development. This time I fell backwards into social justice. Once COVID came, I volunteered for an NGO, and being a lawyer, I talked a lot, and they hired me. So that wasn't as hard. The first change was harder, but the in-between, but the world is changing much faster than it did for my parents. I don't know about your parents. So when I'm thinking about what I want my son to have, it's literally an ability to adapt and resilience. Just like Meghana said, she didn't even know about AI, then she learned it. She might have to learn something else in 2 years. And I wasn't afraid of the learning, but the challenge was getting into the field. But you gotta learn to learn, and you have to be willing to change when you see the writing on the wall. Because you guys are too young to see this, but industries change, and they change fast, and they change often. So I would say, as long as you know that you can adapt and you can learn, you'll be okay.
Okay, next question. What's the favorite part of your job that keeps you motivated?
Mine is the same as before, when I went.
I guess another thing, I like working with people from different countries, like because the company I work at is really global. There's people from Brazil, there's people from India, like I know like a few people from Ukraine, people from France, people from Italy, so just understanding the cultures. And it's super cool. Like I went to Europe like earlier this year, and I actually got to meet like one of my colleagues who was from there, and the other ones, they gave me recommendations of where I should go. So yeah, I really like the global part.
Yeah, I also enjoy the team approach. That is a highlight of my job. And then just when I can help the patient, just help them feel better and improve their quality of life somehow.
Like I said, like a lot of things, but the main thing is I'm a very talkative personality. So in my job I have to talk a lot. So I think that's something I really like, because our project starts there. So I'm there from the day one. So I need to ask questions, interact with everybody and everything. So I think I love it a lot. Yeah.
So what you were saying, Angana, was you see the fields changing a lot. So how do you guys see your specific field changing in the next 5 to 10 years?
Me too.
Yeah, I feel like the field, I'm kind of in automotive and tech. Like, I feel like they're both really changing. Like, automotive is just more technology is going to come in. You're going to see more EVs, just more maybe autonomous, like a higher level of autonomy. And so I feel like it's really transforming. Tech as well too, like with more AI advancements, like I think you were mentioning earlier, like in this field you kind of have to keep learning and just keep updating your skills, because like in 2 years what you know is going to be outdated.
Repeat the question for me just one more
So
time.
where do you see your field that you are currently in changing in the next 5 to 10 years?
I know that my field, and one aspect of my field, there will be hopefully a lot of good AI applications to utilize within the inpatient setting to streamline dietitians' work not sure how that will happen in my direct field, but I know it will affect my dietitians as a whole, and that'll be great. And then I think it will shed a light as hopefully increase attention on their importance, on their role, and hopefully there's a lot of things that need to happen in healthcare. I can't predict what will happen, but that is one thing I can see changing in my field.
Yeah, my answer will be similar to combination of both. So she's from healthcare, she's from IT. So I work for a healthcare company in IT. So pretty much the same thing, a lot of automation, AI combined together. So that's going to help the company and the customers that we serve and everything. So that's where I have to keep up to the technology changes so I can kind of grow along the way. So that's the same thing.
Okay, what's something about your job that you think would surprise most people? What is something about your job that you think would surprise most people?
That I'm a dietitian, but I work with patients that don't eat very much at all.
That surprised me when you came.
I guess, maybe not a huge surprise, but maybe in your position, the job comes with a lot of perks too that you should take advantage of. Working at Stellantis, I get to drive a lot of cool cars. I also have a pink Jeep that I really enjoy showing off. Yeah.
Party
But-
yes.
So yeah, I think as students, corporate and just being in the professional world does have a lot of benefits.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass. I can't think of.
Come back to you guys later. Okay. So, are there any skills or qualities that helped you stand out in your career or helped you in any way?
I'll come back to that.
What are some skills or qualities that helped you in your field or stand out?
Again, as a business analyst or a system analyst, one of the main things is you need to talk, you need to analyze, you need to be, have that critical thinking skills. It's a balance of whatever is being asked, how is it going to be a value add, how you can do cost cutting, how you can do it efficiently, and things like that. So having a good communication skills and building that trust with the team members that you're working with and the customers you serve, and putting that hard work, anything else. You might not know everything what you're doing every day, but if you have that right mindset that I will go in today, I'll learn something, I'll put my hard work, I think you can succeed if you have these qualities. Even you might not know the technology, you might not know what you're working on, that's fine, you can learn. Go with that right mindset of I will learn, I will put my hard work, I'll ask questions if I don't know, it's okay if you make mistakes, you'll learn from your mistakes. I think these qualities will take you anywhere, any job, any career that you're working on. That's my take on it.
Okay, the most obvious one, writing. Just all the way through my career, I've written, and when I had a great high school teacher. She taught persuasive writing. And so I highly recommend you take that and make sure in college that you keep up that skill, because you will have to communicate in any career. You're going to have to make presentations to your colleagues. Maybe you'll write a grant for something. But writing has absolutely been the bedrock of every career and each job, and persuading people to fund my ideas that sometimes win and sometimes don't.
I guess mine would be just being open-minded, but also being risk-taking and being confident and believing in yourself. Like even if it's a new opportunity, like you might not know where it's gonna lead. You should just take a leap of faith, believe in yourself, and just go for it. And I think that's really helped me throughout what I've done so far.
So the only thing that comes to mind as a skill that is very valuable is to know how best to get information from your patients. Sometimes you have to ask the same question 5 or 6 different ways, and then to determine on what level they're coming from, how they will understand the information that I would need to give back to them on an educational level, because I work with patients of all educational levels. And sometimes you have to understand what's important to them. You know, what is changing what they're eating and drinking going to do for them? Is it going to keep them out of the hospital? Is it mean they can infuse less number of hours per day and be freer? You know, you have to figure that out. And then, so it's something you figure out along the way.
Okay, so are there any upcoming technologies or innovations that really inspire you?
I feel like for me, it's just like how so many different industries are changing and like incorporating all these technologies, not just AI, but just like so many different things. Like even like mundane things and mundane industries are completely transforming. So I feel like technology is really going to change everything. Like who knows how our lives are going to look in 10, 15, 20 years.
I feel like the technology in my field, although you know, infusion pumps keep changing, and there's new medications to treat patients that can't absorb and things like that. That's the only thing I can think of. And you know, how it's kind of a collaborative effect. You know, how I can enhance that patient's outcome with all these other technological advances in healthcare.
Yeah, same thing. I think like all the technology and everything, that's what is going to change in future, like incorporating technology in different fields. Like I think that's how it is going to be.
So is there a specific experience or project that you guys seen early on that really like solidified your idea of going into your career?
I told you guys, and I know it was kind of boring, but yeah, I had a couple projects that succeeded in making change in a society, and he still keeps me going.
I guess for me, it was really like robotics that kind of pushed me in that direction. And I mean, surprisingly, even while I was on the team, like I was more on the business side actually, but then in college I completely changed to more of like the technical side. And I guess just like the industry, like my robotics experience gave me information about the industry and like made me aware of all the cool things that could be in it. And yeah.
By the time I got into my 4th dietitian job, which was the first team job in the hospital, where we cared for patients in ICUs, heart transplant units, you know, cardiac care, ventilator patients, all of that. That's when I said, wow, this is cool. I got to do this.
What solidified, so when I was doing my master's here, I was interning for a non-profit during the summer there. So I built the websites for them, like they were having a conference and they want like a conference registration website to be built back then. So that was my first like real project, like which I did like back in 2001, I believe. So that kind of like when I did that and so many people were using it, that kind of inspired me up. I can do something that is usable, and that's kind of nice. So I think from then on, no looking back, I just proceeded in my career.
So how do you approach creative problem solving in your work?
Meghana mentioned an open mind, but also just dogged persistence, and not listening kind of when people just say no right away. I used to tell my staff, the first no doesn't count. You have to get to at least 3 and then tell me you can't.
That's very interesting because my answer is the complete opposite, is pulling in more of of the healthcare team to find the answer. So it's very interesting. It's just a different field, I guess. But
Could you repeat the question?
How do you approach creative problem solving?
Creative problem solving. It's like more, like I said, my job is like since I come early on in the project, like when you start the project, like, they are giving you like funds for the project, so you need to stay within the budget, like you need to be creative of what type of solution you're proposing and everything. There are challenges and things like that come. For me, what helped is like talk it out. If anything is not clear, like talk it out and then have that team approach and come up with like different approaches, different solutions, what are the pros and cons. So that helps me go and stay within the budget, and but at the same time add value to the project that I'm working on. So that's what I believe.
For me, for creative problem solving, I could think of the features that we develop, at least like when we're ideating the feature, like figuring out like how the feature works. I would just imagine myself in the car and like ask myself, like, do I actually want this? Will I actually use this feature? And then also, even beyond that, just asking other people, like, are they gonna actually use this, or is this just some sort of gimmick, or like not helpful?
So what activities or hobbies do you guys do outside of work to help keep your lives more balanced?
Okay, so my son also knows this. I love to dance. So that's something that takes away all the stress that I have from Karthik and from my work also. So dance is something that I enjoy. So the minute I start dancing, I forget everything, and then it just brings me back to my self actually. I think I discover myself whenever I'm dancing.
I guess my job is mostly remote. I can go into the office if I want to, but one of the things that I fully utilize is I travel a lot. So I have a lot of different friends all over the country, so just going and visiting them, whether it be like SF, LA, New York, Philadelphia, Florida. So I like to do that. And I also still play tennis. I played tennis in high school and still play it recreationally.
Salsa dancing has been on and off my outlet. I highly recommend learning something you can do all your life. I'm sure a lot of you play sports, and that'll always be social. Right, so when I would travel internationally, it would be really intense, so I always stuck on a weekend trip, but that's before you have a family, and you have to get back to it. But it was very relaxing to be able to just have fun and see stuff, instead of, figuring out and writing and being in the office late. Oh, sorry.
So probably my more creative end is cooking and perfecting things with either baking or real food. And then the other thing that's like stress reduction is exercise. I really get a kick out of rock wall climbing, harnessed, not without a harness. It's my preference.
Okay, since all of you guys mostly work in like STEM-related fields, how do you guys build up the confidence to work in a male-dominated field?
I had the confidence. It wasn't that I didn't think I could work with men, it's that they didn't think it. I'm sorry, I don't have an answer. You gotta make a living, you just keep doing it.
Yeah, I mean, at first, like, maybe they could have their thoughts about you, maybe you're not, like, you don't know as much, you're not as smart, but I feel like how I deal with that is, like, I just kill that thinking with, like, the information that I give them and, like, how I contribute to the conversation and just being competent, I guess. And so once you're competent for a little bit, then they don't even remember that you're different, you're the same.
Well, I cannot answer this question because my field is not male dominated. There was only one guy in my graduating class, the rest are women.
For me, I have faced it, like that question where the person thinks, not everybody, I have wonderful co-workers and everything, but what I do is I let my work speak than anything else, so that they know. So I build that trust that, like, yep, I'm dependable, I'm hardworking, I contribute, I bring in ideas, I help solve the problem, I'm a team player. So I don't go and say, yeah, I can do it, it's not like that. I'll show it in action, which is my work, what I do, so people can see, then take a call. So that's how I handle it.
So how has your guys' job shaped your outlook on life or the world?
Seeing other cultures really lets you see that what we do is not the only way. I think there is this tendency, or at least a stereotype, that Americans think that it has to be this way and the whole world wants to live this way. You see how other people live, different standards of living. Some are more social. It just takes you out of what they keep calling the bubble. And in this case, I'd say the bubble of suburban American life.
Working with my patients always grounds me to be thankful for my health. You know, we all have our issues, but yeah, nothing is compared to what they're going through.
Can you repeat the question, sorry?
So how has your experience in your job and career shaped your outlook on life or the world?
Outlook of the life? Honestly, let's get questions. There's so many.
Okay. So our next question is, what strategies do you use to stay focused and positive under pressure?
Yeah, I feel like nowadays you have TikTok, you have YouTube, there's so many distractions, I feel like. Even more than when I was in school. So I use this app called Forest. It's really great. It locks all of your apps and you have to stay focused until the tree is grown. It's really cool because you get to see all your trees in your forest.
In your meetings.
Meditation, deep breathing works for me. Trying to stay focused and not get distracted, so I double that.
Yeah, for me, that's a challenge because like once I'm working, I'm like super dedicated, like where my kids have to come sometimes and ask, Mama, can you come out or can you do things? So I think there is a balance that you need to strike. Like she said, phone is a distraction, so I try to put the phone away when I'm working and not use it, so try to stay focused and try to finish what I'm working on.
Okay, so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If I have the adrenaline, I hyper-focus. But for all you guys, figure it out now. Do the experiments in high school and perfect it in college. Don't keep trying to learn it again and again. Don't ask me how I know.
So what's one piece of advice that you'd like to give anybody going into the field you're currently in?
I already said the financial planning, because, you know, social justice doesn't pay, you gotta invest early.
Yeah, start young. I feel like I was pretty late to the game, so start if you want to go into anything CS related, start now.
Can you repeat the question one more time?
So, what was your most decisive and give anyone who's going to see to your
Make sure you keep your mind open. There's so many different subspecialties within nutrition that that you can do. So try to experience them all if you can in your education and in your job opportunities early on.
One piece of advice, so I started as a developer and then came into this analyst role that I'm in. I think that helped me coming from the technical background, helps me now in my system analyst or a business analyst role because I can see the big picture. So right now don't focus on just one particular job or one particular thing. Try to learn as much as you can, try to absorb as much as you can, and then whatever you learn will definitely help you whichever career you end up into. So just focus on learning and putting that hard work. That is more important, is what I would say.
Okay, so what do you think? How can most people, especially girls, overcome the fear of not fitting in or failing at STEM?
There's tons of lady lawyers.
I'm out.
Not fitting in never came in, I think. It's everywhere right now. I don't think.
You just got to be competent. That's the main thing. Just work to build up your skills, I would say.
And if some guy says, hey, could you make a copy of this? You say, yeah, I'll give it to the secretary. And then when they ask who you are, you say, oh, I'm a lawyer.
So at this point of time, we would like to ask students if they have any questions that they'd like to ask.
What was your one epiphany moment, like, that made you decide, yeah, I want to go into this field?
So I knew I wanted to make a difference, and I also wanted to work internationally when I was in law school, and then I was in a law firm doing corporate law, and I hated it so much, and I just knew it wasn't worth doing something you hate 12 hours, 13 hours a day. The first epiphany was I've got to get out. The second one was I love this, and having hated my job, I'm going to pursue doing what I love, because it does make a big difference in your workday.
I don't think I've had a singular epiphany moment, but just kind of keeping an open mind and letting kind of like the course of nature take its course and just keep working hard at what you're doing and just take the opportunities that present you.
I told you guys before that when I was getting out of the engineering program, I didn't know what a dietitian did, so there was no epiphany. It was a leap of faith, and it worked out great. But I think I explained before, but the subspecialty that I do, that came about in that job number 4 when I was able to work on the team and with the complex patients in the hospital, and they were really sick, and I thought that was cool. So I knew I needed to do that.
Same thing, not one moment, but to be a little bit funny. At that time, they said that it'll pay you really well. So back in 2000, when there was Y2K problem was going. If anybody remembers it, back in 2000, there was a. They're not even old enough, but who were older? They were gone also, right? Some of them. Yeah, most of them, right? The kids were not born, yeah. What is Y2K? Yeah, go Google what is Y2K back in 2000, what was the issue? So at that time they're like, oh, once you get in computer science, you're going to get paid tricky because the Y2K is going to be like ending everything. You have to come and solve the problem. So I think that could be the reason why I'm like, okay, let me do computer science and get into this field. So go Google what is Y2K.
It's the reason you have to put all 4 digits on the year instead of just 2 when you fill stuff out.
We talk a lot about STEM, like encouraging math education. What does like math look like in each one of your respective fields?
Even though I'm not in a STEM field, in the field I'm in, any kind of social stuff, quantitative economic modeling, and it depends on math. The people who do that in school and keep those skills up always have a job, and you could actually work in something interesting where, you know, you might be making a difference, but that's where it's absolutely been very good for people who do that. Statistics, quantitative, I'm sure you guys know the difference.
Yeah, for my field, it's a lot of statistics. So like a lot of just, and even like super basic statistics too. But like you were mentioning, more than the actual like concrete math, it's like the problem solving that comes with it. Like she mentioned, like once you have that, you can kind of learn anything and pick different things up.
All day long, I'm calculating calories that patients are receiving, protein, fluid, comparing it to what their estimated needs are, and so that's a constant all day long. But more importantly, when you look at research being done, you have to understand the basic statistics knowledge is key, so that you can say whether or not this is a clinically significant finding or not. And that's really, you know, when it comes down to applying you know, new findings in whether it's in medicine, nutrition, you know, in this field, that's very important.
Similar to what they said, like not direct math, but a lot of the problem solving, analytical skills is, I still use it every day, and the numbers, like whenever the project is funded, like the numbers, you know, all the different calculations and things like that, but mostly the problem solving and analytical skills that you learn through the math helps in my day-to-day job actually.
Almost all of us mentioned statistics, so take AP statistics. it's really important.
And in college, if there's a 2-semester statistics class and a 1, take the 2. They called it econometrics in my time, I don't know.
Take econ too. Yeah, 1 econ class at least, so you know how these are equal.
Kind of on a similar note, what was the biggest thing that you guys all did in high school or like your high school teen years that you think helped you towards the major and eventually the job that you have now?
Robotics. Yeah, no. First has really shaped who I am today. Like it gave me so many opportunities and just made me grow so much over those years. And yeah.
Yeah, I can say, like I said, one of the things that helped me through the school and high school that I did back home, which is helping me now, is speaking in front of people like this. We used to have like a daily gathering every day back home in the school, like where we have to say our pledge and prayers and everything. I used to lead it, so that helps me now to speak confidently with anybody, any person, publicly. So I think that helped me from high school. So don't be afraid to talk, and I highly believe and recommend that asking, even if your question is silly or even if your question is like you think it's silly, which sometimes happens, right? Like it's okay to ask. Worst case scenario, the other person will say like no or something like that, which is okay, but don't be afraid to ask and learn and talk. Now in high school, it will help you. Trust me, it will help you lifelong when you open up and talk, and all those things is very important. It will help you. Any job you take, it will help you.
My high school did not have a robotics team. There was no band. There was no orchestra. It was nothing like Troy High. So I think the experiences that I had were more from social side, community, church-based organizations that I was in, that I had little leadership and positions that I can organize things with. So those skills were fostered through those opportunities, not high school based, but at that same time.
So yeah, what I told you before, my writing class, my AP writing class, she taught us how to structure the argument, how to address the other side, and that really gave me a head start. When I got to college, I placed out a freshman comp, but I also built on that throughout my degree and then my jobs. So if you have the opportunity to get that skill right now, then you'll build on it. Plus, if you place out a freshman comp, all your friends will be jealous.
What's like a typical day of your life that you do in your job? Like, how does it like go with everything?
Since I got my career during COVID, it's a lot of Zoom and then driving to Lansing to try to tell them what to do. But lots of Zoom, lots of meetings and screens.
Yeah, I mean similar, but since my company's pretty global, everything is like really early. So to get up really early, start really early, but it's mostly remote. If I have to go into the office, I just like finish my morning meetings and go in for the afternoon. When I'm traveling, it's a bit different. I have to figure out whatever the situation is there. Wake up at like 5 a.m. if I'm on the West Coast and find a place to take my meetings. But I know that like 3-4 hour morning block is just meetings and just like focused and busy.
I think my day is pretty chaotic compared to yours. I go in, I gather labs on our patients and as well as other information to try to determine if their IV formulation needs adjusting that day for the upcoming week. And then as new patients are trying to get out of the hospital, I have to review the orders for safety and insurance qualification and such. So then I'm fielding phone calls with, issues with tolerance issues for tube feedings and pop-up order changes, reviewing those and just answering everyone else's questions. So I just think it's pure chaos, but it's never a dull moment.
I don't know how you do that. Yeah, for me, my job is pretty flexible. It's pretty much like my days, like kids, cooking, work, meetings, work, kids, driver job, cooking, cleaning, work, Instagram, Facebook, talk with my mom back home and friends, and that's how the day, it's like a mix of, depending on the day, it's like a mix of everything. But driver job, cooking, and the meetings is like probably like the fixed constant every day.
I know you all have mentioned about the advancing technology in each of your fields. How have you, or how do you plan to keep up with that?
So I'm in IT, so like I was saying before, always there are some courses that my company offers, like sessions, learning sessions that I can take and try to be on top of things. Webinars or anything like that, I try to learn and try to get some certification. So I'm always up to what is coming new, so that helps me to be in my field. so that ChatGPT and AI does not come and take my job.
I'm a registered dietitian, so that was one exam I had to take in order to be hired by a hospital. It's different than a nutritionist or a health coach. That's different. And then I'm a certified nutrition support dietitian. I take this exam every 5 years. And then along the way, I attend conferences and keep up with journal reading for, latest research and findings and practice guidance. So, and that's similar in, whether you're a pharmacist, a physician, a nurse, you have to keep up your credentials, whether it's a state license or credentials just to board credentials that's required by the employer.
I guess the main thing is just having a growth mindset and just continuously learning, and like they mentioned, any sort of reports, or go to conferences, or do trainings, things like that. It's just a constant learning game.
Yeah, conferences, readings, trainings, webinars, and you may have a profession that requires continuing education, but I guarantee you'll do more than the minimum requirements.
So I know you guys all have technology related to your careers now, but what part of your field of work involves more a social, face-to-face meeting with people?
So, like I said, I love technology and everything. It's all about meeting people, persuading people, figuring out what the problem is. So, it's the main thing. And then, like I said, writing, because I keep repeating myself.
I mean, even when you're doing something super technical, you still have a team that you're doing it with. You're never doing it by yourself, so you have to explain your solution to them or convince them of going in one direction versus the other. So you're always interacting with people, regardless.
Yeah, other than the work, she explained, it's not a one-person job, it's a team. And we have to work with the team, and we need to convince or provide options, solutions, and so there's a lot of team effort. But other than that, I also plan team building activities, and just recently, just a couple of weeks ago, we did a Halloween in my team, which I organized, which is a combination of Halloween and Diwali together. So things like that where we meet other than the meetings. So we can have that team building, and we get to know each other, which will help build that trust in the team, and it will help our team grow. So that is a social aspect of other than in the meetings and the work that we do.
You've probably already said this in some way or another, but would you mind reiterating your favorite and least favorite parts of your job?
Least favorite part of the job is after pandemic, right? Before pandemic, it used to be we have to go to office every day. So you had a routine, you get up and you finish and you go to office and you close the laptop and you come home and you don't open the laptop until the next day when you go to office again and take the laptop and go. But I think after pandemic, that thin line is disturbed. Even though you have the flexibility that you are working from home, you can work from home, you don't need to go to office and everything. Let me finish this work, let me reply to this email, let me finish this part of it. I think that part is always at least in my mind. So I think that I see as the most difficult part in my day-to-day life, where I should draw a line, stop thinking about work and then start thinking about other things.
Because I never work remotely in my current position, I do have that, I'm there from a specific time to a specific time, but when I am there, I'm constantly being interrupted with something that may shift around the priority of, oh, this patient is discharging today, so I have to review this now, this case now. Or we just got these labs and they look horrible, now we have to act on them. So that's the challenge, my least favorite part of the job, unless you have ADD, which I developed because of my job, I think.
I think my least and most favorite are kind of tied together in some ways. Like my most favorite, I think I mentioned, like having a global team, being able to interact with everyone from different cultures, but also least favorite is not having that many people, like colleagues here. And I mean, I maybe go into the office like twice a month, like if that. So it's like not having as many interactions with my colleagues and having like younger colleagues too. Like a lot of them are much older, and so it's like harder to connect.
Compensation and the nature also of doing work where you want to work with NGOs is if your job is dependent on a grant, the end of the grant brings in. So the compensation and sometimes the instability if you're in a grant-based job, absolutely my least favorite.
So what's like one good habit that you guys built when you were younger that has really helped you now in your current like lifestyles?
Don't hesitate to try things and reach out if you don't understand things like that. So I think I think it's just a personality, just being outgoing and open to listen and open to ask. Both should be there. You should not be the only person talking. You should know that you should also listen, absorb, and then talk. So I think that definitely helps me in my job now, where I have to listen to and I also have to talk, both.
I think it's just like all of the learning and all the stuff that I did when I was younger. Like when you're older, there's so many other things that come into the picture and you don't always have the time. So just like studying as much as you can when you're younger, because you actually have the time, you don't have to make priorities, or even beyond studying, like picking up different skills, like different sports, or learning how to skate, or learning how to do art or something like that. Like all of those skills are from when I was younger. I haven't really learned anything new.
I'm still trying to learn the good habits. But what I will say is if you can make it a habit to consistently study and not cram, then you will be the happiest person in your next degree. Because it's so stressful. People say I work better under pressure. Yeah, drop all that. Learn to work consistently and make it a habit, make it natural, and then you can go out when your friends all have to cram all night and you don't have to stay up all night.
I'm going to be the mom in the room, good health habits. So, I'm a dietitian. What do you think I'm going to say? Eat some vegetables, right? Yeah. So just try to take care of yourself. Remember to sleep. I just remember trying to stay up really late to study and I couldn't because my brain shut down, so get up early and then study, whatever, figure it out. But it's just finding that health balance is important.
Yeah, right now I keep hearing about the importance of networking when I get into college, and I was curious how important of a role that plays and how you develop a balance between actually studying for your courses and doing all that's in structure versus then spending time to network and develop connections, and how important that becomes in landing an internship, etc., and finding success in your careers.
just want to say is networking doesn't always have to be like, oh, I'm going to this event. Like networking is even like being nice to someone, like making friends with your peers. And like I think it is really valuable because like just coming from college and like just being friends with these people, now even just two years down the line, all these people are all over the place doing such cool things in their industries. And honestly, networking and like talking to people like is like information and just like lets you know more about the world. But it doesn't always have to be super intentional. Like you just have to like be nice to people around you and just like make meaningful connections. And I guess like for landing internships and stuff, that's a bit different. Like you have to like short term, like networking means maybe going to a career fair and like going to events that companies have. But long term, it's just like just meeting people around you.
You know, things have changed so much. I mean, I graduated in 1988, you know, that's eons ago. So that, you know, there were no internships and of course my field's different. So, but I can definitely see with our kids how they worked it, and just the social aspect is huge. It doesn't have to, it could be within a club, but it might be in a, you know, one of our kids joined Polish club. You know, she didn't look Polish, but she was, so she joined it, and you know, lo and behold, one thing leads to another, and you know, you meet people, and you know, that may have helped her get an internship at some point. So that is really key. And then, you know, for me, I had mentioned earlier that being at the conference and my coworker, you know, said, you should go talk to her. She works in Boston. You're moving there. And I was like, yeah, duh, you know, why didn't I think of that? But it's, you know, so just showing up, being involved, because that's what I did right from the beginning. I joined organizations as I was, you know, a new dietitian. And so I met people within the city and collaborated on projects and, you know, volunteered for positions. So it doesn't, you know, I'm speaking, that's an example of once I was already in the profession. But that's how you move around, for sure, for sure.
I guess just to add, conferences really help, and like career fairs. Like at least for me, I got 2 internships from career fairs, even got my full-time job like from a conference. So just like being engaged, like just going to these things really help.
For you guys, I would say get to know your professors and like really get to know them well. In the subjects that matter in your field, because they are professors because they were known at some point, they know people, and then you'll also meet adjunct professors who are already working in the area and they just teach that class. So get to know them and maintain the relationship, and then once you get into your job, you'll figure it out. But for college, I would say that is often something that young people overlook. Don't just be the student in the back of the class. Do research for one if you can, but I think they're an underutilized resource in college.
They summed up really well, like, you know, definitely networking helps, like either going to the conferences or any clubs that you guys are doing now, it will definitely help you. The way I look at it is like if you're networking with a year-old senior or 2 years old senior, like, you know, they've already walked your path, so they can tell you the pros and cons, and you know, that will help you like to, if there is any cons, like, you know, to avoid and things like that. So just keep your eyes and ears open and you don't need to go to do, like you don't need to force it on you, but like as and when you meet, like, you know, try to be open, try to build that networking, that will definitely help you, for sure.
What were your job interviews like, and do you have any tips for them?
Definitely prepare your canned answers ahead of time. What is your biggest strength? What is your biggest weakness? Make up stories if you have to, because then they'll say, can you give us an example? Have that down cold. Do the research on each person who's going to interview you. Now we have LinkedIn. I used to have to go to Martindale Hubble and flip through the pages. Yeah, I'm that old. Pre-internet everywhere. Go ahead, now you know. Research those people, know something. If you see something in common, don't be artificial. Definitely be yourself because they'll be able to tell. But you know, if you have something in common, hey, I see you like to windsurf, me too. You know, whatever's there. Go in prepared, but especially those canned answers. It's just, there's no reason to be caught unawares. A lot of them are really dumb. Like, the main answer for what is your biggest weakness, you know what? I just take on too much. Just make it work.
Yeah, I think your answer was fabulous. I guess touching more on like CS, like any computer science related thing, they ask you to like code during the interview. So just like beforehand, like there's like stuff that prepares you, but you just practice all the coding questions online. Maybe something you've heard of, it's called Leak Code, or like HackerRank. Just have to spam all those questions, like understand what they're gonna ask, and maybe there's only like 100, 150 questions they could ask you, just different variations, so just like practicing for that.
Yeah, I have nothing to add.
For me, I would say like she said, if you're going for programming developer type of a job, definitely coding will be at some level of your job interview. Like if it's first is HR and then if they're doing technical interview, definitely they'll ask you to code on the spot, so you need to have the confidence to do it. Another biggest thing that I would say that helped me is like put what you have done in your resume. Do not hype up or do things like that. At least that worked for me. Whatever I have done and whatever you're talking, relate to what you have done. They can make it up. They will make it up if you're making up your resume or if you're making up your answers. So they will know that because there will be some gaps. So whatever you have put in your resume, prepare it and go for the interview. So any examples you say, like she was saying, right? Like what is your biggest weakness? So relate to what you have written there. So that will connect with the interviewer is what helped me to get my job. Like I said, I went to an interview after 9 years gap. I was honest. I specified I had 9 years gap. So that helped me a lot to get a job.
When I said make it up, I kind of meant make a story out of it and, just make the story fit your canned answer. But don't tell a lie that'll get caught at all.
Going back to Shaman's question previously, have you ever had any experience being a mentor to somebody, and what advice would you have for somebody looking for a professional mentor?
I feel like it happens organically, but I'm going to let them give you suggestions. You know what? If you can get someone who has decision-making power wherever you are, that's a bonus. But if you click with someone, let them mentor you. Let them teach you, because the skills and the nitty-gritty is important too.
Yeah, so I've helped a lot of high school students actually figure out their application for college, and especially if they're applying to more of a tech field, because that's what I have background in. So over the years, I've helped a lot of students in that, and I think it's they just approach me, and I feel like most people are happy to give back if they've already gone through the experience. So I'm always happy to jump on a call or look over something, even for you guys.
I was asked to be mentored, to host dietitian students and interns. So I do that on a regular basis, and I look forward to that for those opportunities as they come up. But it's something that is required for them before they can sit for the exams. So it's something they interview for, and they are accepted to the program. Of course, there were small, relationships along the way that I had in coworkers or people that you meet through coworkers, but that perhaps I had mentored. But that's more of a strong experience for me, and I really do enjoy teaching.
So in my company, that's one of the goals that I do every year, to be a mentor and train new hires in my team. So I take it as my goal to share my knowledge. So I do have like bi-weekly knowledge transfer sessions where I share what I know about different paths in the job that I'm working in. So that helps them to bring them up to the speed and also help the team and the company. Yeah. So mentorship is very important, is what I think. Same way, if I don't know something, things that I don't know, who knows, I approach them and I set up that session so I can learn from the other person too. Yeah.
I just want to add, definitely approach people, but there will be a chemistry click. That's when the person will really invest in you, and it'll come, as long as you keep trying.
So I see a lot of students enter the workforce, graduating high school, college, whatever, into the workforce. And they're educated, they're ready to conquer the world, and they judge their success on how quickly they can move up in a company, typically. A lot of new graduates go as, I'm going to conquer the world, I'm going to be VP, I'm going to be CEO in 5 years. Do you think that's a good metric, or could you propose a better judgment or metric for success in your career?
So that path is available in some careers. I'm not sure it is everywhere. I know for me at some point, and probably when you hit middle age, that's like 10 years from now for me, but still. Then I cared a lot less about whether I was advanced. I wanted to do the work, I wanted to get paid well. But every structure, what if you go work for the government? Advancement may be very slow, but if you keep getting raises, who cares?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm also still a new grad, so I don't know if I'm the best person to answer, but I feel like at some point fulfillment also matters. So like if you enjoy your job, you enjoy waking up every morning and doing your job, I think that's really important. Like you said, like raises.
Yeah, I don't have that mentality at all. I could have gone into my profession and say I want to be a manager. I had tried a little bit of managerial experience and I didn't like it. I really liked the clinician work, and so I'm really happy continuing it because I do get that fulfillment. So I think that's a question that each person has to answer for themselves. What's important to you, what gets you up in the morning, and what keeps you happy. So, I enjoy my job. It's not a managerial, high-powered job per se, but I love it, so.
Yeah, I think they summed up the same thoughts that I have. It's not for every career where you directly eventually wants to become a CEO. And again, depends on the personality also, right? Like somebody they don't want to get into the leadership roles, they want to be more technical or something related to it. So it all depends on the person also, I think, but definitely I would say, I know most of them, I want to reach up to the heights immediately as soon as I graduate, within 5 years. If not CEO, I want to go into the senior position or senior things. Learn and do your best. It will come, if you just work hard and get that varied experiences. I think eventually that will matter, if you become a subject matter expert in different areas, maybe eventually that will help you. Even if you want to become a CEO, even though you don't do day in, day out, 9 to 5 job, you need to understand how different departments and different things work, right? So gain as much as you can and eventually you will go into that position.
That's like the old model of keep moving up. So some organizations just have a flat structure, a few leaders, and the other thing that I've seen is it's a pyramid. You have to always remember that. There's more at the bottom, the next level has less and less and less. So the way people advance sometimes is changing jobs. You don't want to do that too often. You want to learn in a company, you want to invest, and to the extent there's benefits, keep those going. But you don't know the structures you're going into. You don't. So definitely make sure you can name skills that you acquired wherever you go, and then figure it out where you are. Because that ladder thing, it's not ubiquitous.
Also, higher positions come with more stress and more work, more hours, less of a life outside of work. So I feel like right now it might seem really nice to be able to climb, but once like you get into life, like there's other things that also matter to you and should matter to you that might influence if you want to move up like that.
Okay, so in your career paths, you probably see a lot of new rookies and employees. What do you think differentiates between the ones that have a lot of potential and the ones that might not have as much?
Like I said, we do that mentorship. I want to do that mentorship program. I can say immediately the difference between, by the way they ask questions. Like when I'm doing this knowledge transfer and things like that, what I expect from them is like you learn something from me, you go and you try, you go and you explore. In the next session you come back and ask questions or show me in some way that you understood what I gave you, you understood. If you don't ask questions, if you don't show that enthusiasm to learn, the curiosity to learn and try, you will know the difference, like, you know, whether they want to grow up or just want to listen and forget about it. So.
Yeah, I think that was a really good answer. I think the biggest thing is just engagement. Like, when you go to things, don't just go there, like participate, be involved, be completely like into what you're doing. Like if you're volunteering, be fully engaged in your role. Or if you're here, like try to grasp as much as you can from us and just be engaged wherever.
Okay. There isn't a formula as far as I can see, so make sure the people with you and above you like you, not by kissing ass, just like be your great self. Unfortunately, I don't see it based on skills. It's how the world is, so, and I'm not the best at the office politics, so maybe that's not what you want to hear, but now you know in advance, right?
Actually, I had a question I wanted to ask you guys real quick. I know you touched on college internships before. I think in high school here at Troy High especially, internships are really stressed. How much more important would you guys say that college internships are than high school internships? And how do you think they would like affect your career choices?
You mean for after college? I think just the most recent thing is what they're going to look at. You should use every summer, which I think you already know, right? In my day, you could work at, I don't know, Home Depot or whatever, and it was fine. But I think it's all more competitive now. Take every chance you get, because it's all more to talk about. But the closest experience you have to when you're applying will be the most important, but all those others will matter too, because you're not going to have anything else right when you graduate, right? So.
I mean, maybe there's more opportunities now, but at least back when I was in high school, internships weren't really a thing in high school. But it was more like, what are you doing during the summers, like you mentioned? Like, what activities are you doing to keep yourself engaged and be a part of the community? And in college, I would say, like, they do matter getting into it, like getting a job after, especially in like any sort of CS or like electrical or hardware, any technology field. At least having one, like the last summer before you graduate is really, really, really important. So that is something that people do stress. And even like if you have internships before, they are really helpful because it's just like extra skills that you pick up before you go into the workforce. Also, since you're only there for 3 months and maybe it's like a different company, you also get a really broad view of like different industries or like different areas, and that's also really, really helpful.
From the health sciences end, if anyone's interested in going into medicine, I can just share that there's a lot of volunteering experience that they look for in order to for you to get into medical school. So it may or may not be an internship, it may or may not be a health sciences job, probably could be, whether it's, you know, a scribe or something like that. But if the more volunteering you do, the better. And it could be any kind of volunteering, so that's just specific to pre-med.
Yeah, definitely, if you can do internship, definitely it helped me. Also, I did internship during my masters, and that's what ended up, I think that helped a lot in me getting a job right after I graduated. So definitely, because that gives you also, like she said, like, you know, different fields or different companies. Summer internship, make the most of it, and it'll help you, definitely it'll help you later on.
I think for engineering especially, some schools have co-op. Definitely, all my friends who did a co-op who were in engineering some of them are still at that company, but they all got offers. So.
Okay guys, these will be the last few questions, so.
So I know we kind of touched on this already with, you know, the COVID thing, the thin line, but how did you guys manage to balance work and life? So social aspects, going out with friends, doing that kind of stuff, and then also being successful in a job or career or school.
Yeah, that was a struggle for me, especially the 2020, where like you're staying at home, you don't have anything else to do. I think I felt like I became completely workaholic with that 2020 year. So you have to take that conscious decision so you don't cross a thin line. Family time, and that's very important. Shut the laptop and don't think about it. Like it's still a struggle for me because most of my work is remote. So working from home, it's still a struggle, but like I think we need to develop that and come to that conscious decisions of, yep, I'm done and I'm not going to go for it until the next day. So it's like a learning process, I would say, for me at least.
I guess like my attitude is like work hard, play hard a little bit. Like when you're working, like put everything into it and like get it done, like as like quickly and like as efficiently as you can, and then you'll have the time to devote to the rest of your life. But while you're working, if you're going on your phone or if you're like kind of multitasking, like it might take longer than it's cutting into all the other time that you have.
Yeah, remember what I said about learning now to focus? I don't know that I've found a balance since I had my son. I would say in your 20s, err on the side of work, not to the point where you're losing, your health or your mental health, but gain the skills, and then maybe you can find maybe you'll have more leverage in the job market in your 30s. Unfortunately, I'm not sure there's a balance, but government workers generally feel balanced, and it's not that they don't do work. My work in the government was way more interesting than writing grants, and the problem with ours was too much travel, but that was the nature of the work. You could choose to go into something like working in a city, state, federal government, and then you would have fixed hours. But if you go into some corporate setting, I don't know. I don't see a balance, and I never achieved one, so think about it. But in your 20s, I would give a little bit extra work.
Also, from the last question, someone was asking what a co-op was.
Oh, so the way it was when you get credit for the work you do for this company, and you alternate semesters. I'm sure there's variations, but you go there while you're in school. It's not just a summer job. And you go there more than once. When you get there, you'll see, but basically you work and get credit at the same time. Saves tuition too.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was thinking of something.
Thank you guys so much for your time and your original answers. Let's give a round of applause to the speakers.